Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, today I've got a very special guest. I've got the lovely Katie Phillips, who is the founder of the School of Self-Love. Now, self-love is absolutely essential when it comes to dating. It's all about self-esteem, it's about positivity, it's about self-confidence. If you haven't got these things, then finding a partner will be very, very difficult, particularly if you're new on the dating scene. So, Katie, welcome to my show.
Hello, so good to be here. I want to match my voice and my tone to your amazing podcast radio voice.
Do you like my podcast voice?
I am a little bit in love with it. Yes, I do love it.
Fantastic. Then I'll make sure I do it more and put it on in the most posh, pathetic way.
Yes,
there we go.
Please do.
I have to sound really genuine though. So this is my real voice, of course. This is my podcast voice. This is my actor voice. For those who don't know, I used to be an actor years and years ago. And I used to do quite a lot of voiceovers. But the reason I try and speak clearly when I do this is I have a tendency to speak quite quickly. So by doing so, hopefully I'll be able to reach my American market. Anyway, that is my self-love. I like my voice, so thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So it's great. Katie, tell me about yourself. You founded the School of Self-Love about 10 years ago, I believe. Now, what exactly is that, and why is self-love so important when it comes to dating?
Well, goodness me. So the School of Self-Love came about because of my own journey. I had to learn to love myself. And that became very apparent after living 10 years as a victim, I would say, to my mum's suicide. So when I was 22, my mum took her own life. And as you can imagine, that was pretty traumatic. And there was a lot of drama and all sorts of life experiences leading up to that moment, including her attempting suicide when I was 17. And I had a beautiful relationship with my mum. And actually, I had a pretty blessed childhood and family life living on the northern beaches of Sydney. I'm now living in Sussex, UK. I'm not sure how I ended up here. And I guess it was, after mum's death, I kind of, when I say I lived a victim, something inside me was telling me that I was unlucky in life. And I started to piece together all of these things that had happened through my life that culminated in mum dying, that I made mean that perhaps there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't meant to have the kind of life that that person over there, who I wished I could have their life, that they had. I just thought I was unlucky. I thought I was unlucky financially. I went on to believe I was unlucky in love. I suffered deep anxiety. I was often on the floor with anxiety, which I had a period of time in my life with depression. I gave myself a really hard time. I suffered acute perfectionism. And eventually, after some therapy and then working with a transformational coach, I came to realize that what wasn't modeled to me growing up was how to love yourself. So although I had all sorts of beautiful modeling from my mum, the truth is, if she had loved herself and created a life for herself that reflected the truth of who she was, if she lived into her values, if she knew her desires and lived into that, if she knew how to take care of herself before taking care of everybody else, she was hugely codependent, a major people pleaser, because if she had known how to do that, I know she wouldn't have ended up clinically depressed and suicidal. She just wouldn't have. And I came to realize that I'd learned through modeling how to be codependent, how to put everybody else's needs before my own, how to not manage my emotions, how to be a victim and trapped by my programming and my negative belief systems, until I realized, okay, wow, isn't this amazing that we can be in charge of how we think and how we feel? Our life can be what we decide to create of it. Like, you're not lucky or unlucky. To me, that was the most major revelation. You are not lucky or unlucky. You can create how you think, feel, and what you experience in the world. And then that was my mission. I went on a huge spiritual awakening, a huge personal growth journey. And I became evangelical about telling anyone that would listen that you can change your life. So the School of Self-Love evolved from that. And then, 10 years on, my absolute passion and focus is supporting women who desire to meet their soulmate, because my biggest pain point for longer than I care to admit was I found relationships really, really hard. And, I experienced addiction in relationships, codependency, jealousy, narcissism. I mean, you name it, I experienced it. But as we know, relationships are our little space to reflect back to us the pieces that we are being invited to heal and evolve and grow from. And as I was able to do that and turn my biggest pain point of intimate relationships into now what I have, which is just a beautiful marriage. Finally got married at the age of 44. It was quite a journey. I was 8 years single parenting before I met James. Great name, by the way. And now I just love working with women and helping them to call on their soulmate.
So what changed for you? Where did you meet your partner, I have to ask?
Wow. So it was a voice of God experience, actually, meeting James. And I say that because I don't believe in, because a lot of women say, oh, what's the best way to meet your guy? What dating app? What coach? What platform? How, what do you do? And I'm like, well, it's got nothing to do with any of that. It's about you being the vibrational match to him. So I did am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Go for it. Go on, treat yourself.
It's not bad.
I'll have to mark it up as an explicit version. I haven't got one of those yet, so go on, swear for me.
Well, I did a shit ton of work on myself to heal my heart.
I thought you were going to say shit ton of mushrooms. I thought you were going to say.
I took a shit ton of mushrooms. I did a lot of work in healing my heart, reprogramming my, self-sabotaging sort of conditions of behavior and mindset and so on. And I fell in love with myself even more. And that was, I have to say as well, when I go back into that time when I was single for that 8 years as a single parent, I was a self-love coach. It was professionally so humiliating to be a self-love coach, to teach what I taught, to coach what I coached. I'd written a book. I mean, I had the podcast. It was all, I had this platform, and yet my deepest desire was to meet my guy, and it wasn't happening for me. And so there I was, loving myself, but I was actually being invited to love myself even more and to take my relationship with me to a whole new level of intimacy, to create desire and pleasure and fun in my life, so that I was vibrating at that frequency, to clear out really, I had some pretty dark belief systems about men, and trusting them and opening my heart and allowing them in. I mean, those are energetic blocks that are blocking him from coming in. So I did a shit ton of work. And then a friend of mine who lives in New York, who'd visited where I lived. At that time, I was living on a little farm in Sussex. And and I'm not going to try and do his American accent. He has a great New Yorker accent. But he's like, Katie, I've seen where you live. You live in the middle of nowhere. You're never going to meet anybody. Get on Bumble. And when I heard him say that, that was my voice of God sort of moment, because what he said and the moment he said it and the way I felt when he said it, because I hadn't been trying to do anything to meet him. I was just focused on me, doing my healing work, feeling great. I was focused on feeling good every day so I could become the magnet for him to find me. And then when I heard that, it was like, do that. Something in my soul just went, do that. Because I believe that, life knows our heart. Life knew, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, knew my heart. And I was ready. And I was just waiting, and I was open to receiving. I was energetically available to be shown the way. And when he said that, I was like, okay. So I signed up to Bumble, which at that point was quite a new app in the UK. There weren't very many people to match with, actually. It was really a tiny selection. But I matched with James 2 days later. We went on our first date 2 weeks later. 2 years later, we were married. Yeah, beautiful.
It's such a wonderful backstory. You bring so much here as a self-love coach to do all this. I'm imagining Morgan Freeman giving you a voice of God saying, go on, Bumble. I can't do Morgan Freeman.
No, I know, but that's how it felt in that moment, because genuinely I was scared of online dating, and I thought that whole concept was exhausting and another thing to do. Like, I was a single parent and I was running a business. I was busy. I'm like, I don't have time for that. That was like one of my big blocks, but I kind of just released it. I released the need to know how he was going to come in. And I got to a place of trusting, having deep, total faith and trust that life knew my heart, that my only job was to energetic clear the way to be available to receive him. And when you're that tuned in and that aligns with who you are, that's when shit starts happening. That's when the miracles start happening. And you hear, when life invites you, you hear it because you're tuned in. You're not frantically looking outside of yourself, like scrabbling around going, oh my God, how am I going to meet him? I'll try that app, I'll do that, and I'll must get to go to that club or accept that blind date. Like, it's exhausting. It's about being aligned with who we are.
I think when you become aligned and you become really clear what you want and who you are, and you appreciate your own worth as well, then you do start to see signals and see clues from the universe that are out there telling you what to do. You have to be ready for this. But often you're blind to them in the course of a day normally, because so much negative energy, so many distractions, so much work comes your way in the meantime. But you mentioned to me that you're a single mother and you found that difficult. And I have a lot of single mothers do come to me for coaching as well. And they say the same thing. They say that, James, nobody wants to take on the responsibility for someone else's children. Did you find that was a struggle, or how did you work through that with James?
Well, first of all, I hear that all the time too. And that was my piece. I thought that when I was single as well. Mm-hmm. And what I came to discover was that right there, that is a belief, and a belief is energy. That belief is blocking him from coming in. Your guy, right? Your guy. There's one. That's a really important piece to remember. There's one. And that one guy, your guy, loves you for all that you are and for the package that you come with. And so while you believe, oh, who's going to want to take on a single mom and all of this, then you're creating an experience where no one's going to want to take on you as a single mom and all of that. So first of all, I'd invite those women, this is the work I had to do, was to release that belief first and foremost, to actually spend some time acknowledging what's so wonderful about you and the package that you are and your beautiful child and what you as a little family have to offer somebody else. And trust that the guy that's meant for you will be fully accepting and loving of that situation. I mean, I didn't want to meet a guy with kids. So I had the double whammy of it. I didn't think a guy would want me and my little boy. And I didn't want a guy that had kids and some crazy ex-wife, I thought. I'm like, oh my God, what a nightmare. Some crazed ex-wife and children. So I was blocking myself at every opportunity until I just released all of that. And the guy that came in for me, James, has 2 children. And they get along so well with my son. The 3 of them, they're all pretty much the same age. And it couldn't be easier. There's no drama amongst us. I was expecting that when you blend families together, there's drama, it's difficult. It just hasn't been our experience. But then, you get what you expect. And I was open to whatever, and I was open to it being a beautiful experience, and it has been.
It's about being open. I always say to people, focus on what could go right rather than what could go wrong. Don't expect people to reject you. Expect them to love you because you've got so much to offer. That's what you need to do. Now,
Mm.
you mentioned there's only one guy for you. Do you believe that you only have one soulmate in life?
No, I actually don't. And when I say there's only one guy for you, I say that in the context of the women that I'm working with, and I speak for myself. They're looking for one guy, and I'm very available to knowing that relationship might last for its period of time, and then maybe there's another relationship or something, terrible can happen, and there's someone else for you. So I don't believe in there's one for your entire life period. If we go down the route of talking about what I really believe a soulmate is, I think we might go completely off track on this podcast, because I do actually think soulmates are actually sent to us to push our buttons as well, to encourage us to grow. I've had multiple soulmates, and some of them have been very painful relationships. They were definitely my soulmates, but they were inviting me to see certain aspects of myself that I needed to heal and grow. James, my husband, is my soulmate, but I'm learning and healing and growing with him through joy and through love, not through fear and pain and drama. So that it could, it's a bigger conversation, but
It is, and it's something I will be having at some point, because I want to have a whole channel on my YouTube channel when I start doing this, which will be about soulmates and interviewing other experts purely on the topic of soulmates. And I want to interview maybe some religious people, some spiritual people, some non-believers, and get everyone's opinion on the whole subject, because it is fascinating. And in these strange times right now, people aren't sure where or how they're going to meet their soulmate. But I think it brings people together, and we're in a much better place to be out there actively meeting our soulmates more than ever before. So you mentioned that these blockages happen for you in terms of what you were thinking, and these popular ones. What other sort of blockages do you see in your clients who come to you that might be sabotaging their success when it comes to dating?
They're going to lose the great life that they have. So most of the women I have, while they feel the pain of not being with their guy, they also have great lives, and they don't want to compromise their great life, and they're super independent. And a lot of them are actually, financially stable. Like they've got great jobs, or they've got their own businesses, they're making money, they support themselves, they've got great friendships, they have adventure and travel, they've got their kids, like they're good. And actually that in itself can be a huge block, because they're like, well, I'm good, so I don't really need a guy. But it's not about needing somebody. It's about tapping into your deepest desire. Like, what does your heart yearn for? And most of them will say, well, I actually really would love a partner in crime. Like, I really would love just to share this with somebody. But the fear is that he will somehow take her away from her amazing relationship with her kids, or her passionate relationship with her business and her clients and her friendship. So that's a big piece. And that was one of mine, by the way. So I love my business. I had a successful coaching practice, and I'd worked really freaking hard to create that. And I was so proud of my relationship with my son and very protective of it. And the idea of somebody coming in and ruining my little bubble was a block. And the other piece I see a lot is it's just too late for me, or it's not meant for me, or I had my big love, like we were sort of saying before, is there one soulmate, or can we have more? I've had my big love, and it didn't work out, and their hearts are broken, and there's some healing to be done. They're the bigger blocks I see.
Yeah, I see those ones quite a lot as well. And people often, they're so scared of getting hurt that they don't make the full effort when it comes to actually pursuing their ideal partner. For example, they might have a Bumble profile, like you said, but they put average pictures on it, or they don't be proactive, or they put just a few lines about themselves. And I see this a lot more and more, because people are doing that because they're scared of getting hurt. If they know if they made the full effort, had amazing pictures, amazing profile, what then? What if someone doesn't like them then? What if they're rejected? And it's the fear that they're going to be rejected. But do you know what? if you can truly love yourself and you're comfortable as you are, then rejection doesn't even come into this at all. There is no rejection because it doesn't matter. You don't know someone before you meet them. You don't know someone before you speak to them. If they don't like you, not interested, you've lost nothing because you don't know them afterwards. Nothing's changed. Think about what might happen and who you might meet. Blockages are there, but they're just there to protect you, but you can get through them and then to have a much happier future. Now, I know that you specialize in helping women prepare when it comes to meeting their guy. So what preparation needs to be done? Because saying that it's what we need to love ourselves is great, and I teach people that. But how exactly do you love yourself? What steps you need to take, and how do you prepare someone for that?
Well, I mean, just to carry on a little bit from what you were just saying, which will also answer this question. Most women I come across in this field of work are very focused on what they don't want rather than what they do want. So that's key. That is absolutely, because of course they're recoiling from heartbreak and so on, and it makes a lot of sense, and they maybe don't trust, but we've got to focus on what we do want, not what we don't want, and then loving ourselves enough to give ourselves permission to focus on being the best version of ourselves. So that's part of the preparation piece. It's like, do you want to, like, the person that you're calling in, the depth of relationship that you want to have is incredible, right? Like the vision, when you really allow yourself to tap into that vision and not focus on what you don't want anymore, that vision, like, he is super cool. He's good looking, he's financially stable, he's fun, he's funny, he's adventurous, he's emotionally connected, communicative, like he's the package, right? And so if you're going to end up in a relationship with a guy like that, don't you want to be the best version of yourself? Like, you don't want to drag in all your past relationship shit and dump it on his doorstep. You want to be prepared to arrive quite healed. It's not about being perfect, by the way, because I do believe that once you're in the relationship, then you grow together and there's healing work and growth that you can do together. So it's absolutely not about achieving perfection. But don't you want to have spent some time before meeting him, like honor him in advance? That's something that James says to me quite often. He's like, I'm so glad of the work that you did before we met, because he felt honored that a woman was so serious about being in a healthy relationship that she would do the work that she did to meet him, to be prepared for him. He's grateful for that. I quite often joke with him about how much I invest in coaching, and and we joke about my return on investment. But how do you begin to fall in love with yourself? Well, you give yourself permission to do that. You decide to spend time focusing on your belief systems and what are loving you and what are sabotaging you and self-harming you, and changing those up. You spend time in heart healing and acknowledging your pain and doing the emotional expression work. So I'm a therapeutic coach, so there's a fine line sometimes between the coaching and the therapy side.
What's emotional expression work, for those that don't know?
Oh, great. One of my favorite things, like catharsis therapy. So essentially, just allow yourself to feel your bloody feelings. You know, allow yourself to take a beat and notice how you feel. And then take the time to express that in a way that is safe and healthy for you. So if you're angry, create some time at home to go punch a pillow. Or my favorite is get the old baseball bat out, and I've got a special big foam block, and just smash the crap out of it.
We've got those in my house too, because my wife's a kickboxer. My kids have weapons like that.
There you go. Yeah, but that's brilliant, isn't it? But like, let it out, release it. I mean, because as we're holding on and repressing unexpressed emotions, that is another energetic block. And people feel that. Like, you want to call in this amazing other human being to share your life with. A block to that person coming in is all of these stored up emotions from years and years of perhaps failed relationships and pain and this and that. Energetically, other people feel that. Do you know what I mean? Like, they feel that. So we got to release that.
It's almost like you're expecting them to act in the same way that someone else did before. And you've got to give them a chance, because what's happened to you in the past is not going to happen to you in the future unless you do things to make that happen in a certain way. So you've got to be free and let them know that they're a completely new person, and then just give them that opportunity and that chance. And you mentioned about being the best version of yourself. And I teach people this all the time. It's so important. It's not just thinking, well, what do I want in life? What person do I want to meet? I want this ideal checklist of all this ideal guy or ideal woman. It's about, what do I have to offer? What makes me so special?
Yes.
And I ask all my clients this question. I say, well, what makes you so dateable? What makes you such a great catch? And I have to frame it in a certain way that I ask everyone this. It's nothing personal towards them. Because it's a question I ask myself quite a bit. I think, what do I bring to the table in a relationship? What can I do to improve? And quite often they say things to me like, well, I'm kind, I'm loyal, I'm fun. And I say, well, that's lovely. That's a puppy. Well, what else do you bring to the table? And they have to think deeper. And if you haven't got enough interest going on, if you haven't got, you're not really living the life that you want to live, not going to the same places you want to go and doing the things you want to do, doing the work that you enjoy, then how can you really expect somebody else to want to be part of that life? You have to be the best version, so you're completely comfortable, so you are complete as you are. And that is truly self-love, being complete, realizing, as you did, it's not finding your other half. It's not finding someone to complete you. It's finding a partner in crime. And I love that phrase, because you used that at the start of our recording here. And it's just an important thing. That's all you need. Someone to have adventures, to have fun with, and just to enjoy yourself and just make the most of it.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? I think my, like 2 months into being with James, he shared with me that what really caught his attention about me on our first date, and he used the word intrigued. I was intrigued by you. He said, because you just had you were good. You clearly liked yourself. You clearly liked your life. You were secure in who you are, and you were kind of unapologetically who you are. He just knew, I knew you had you. And that, he said, that intrigued me, because I was like, well, I want to know more about how it is that she just has her. And that's the preparation. That's the self-love. It's being there for you first, having that depth of intimacy with you first, really having your own back first, and then bringing that to the table and being able to share that.
Absolutely agree. Here's a question for you, going along the same lines as that. Many of my clients are very successful and they have good jobs, they're very happy, great lives, and all that's missing is a partner. However, when they meet someone, particularly ladies, they're in love with themselves. They love themselves, know their value, and we've worked together on that. And they're very strong and they're ready to go out there. But then they say that the men become intimidated by them. And some of these men just don't want to compete with them because they're more successful when it comes to life or to work. And I know what I say to them, but what advice would you give them?
I was told that so often.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, so many people would say to me, the reason you're single, Katie, and here we go, someone else telling me their opinion on why I'm single. Thank you very much. The reason why you're single is because you're so intimidating to men. Oh, that made me so cross. But the thing is, if you are experiencing dating guys who are intimidated by you, okay, let me just feel into this one. They're reflecting something back to you, I believe. So I would invite the woman to check in with herself around, does she believe she's intimidating? Or is the sort of intimidation energy a protection mechanism for her? So she might come off intimidating, but actually what's underneath the surface of that is actually some deep vulnerability and fear of really opening her heart and allowing herself to be fully vulnerable and available to a man. So what she's doing is putting up a block which comes off as an intimidation, which is dressed up with, oh, I've got money, I've got a career, I'm beautiful, I've got this great life. It comes off as an intimidation. But actually, if she was fully available to be, to receive a man and to open her heart to him and be vulnerable, I bet she can't come off as intimidating. And I also believe that her perfect match, her guy, the guy that fully loves all of who she is, her whole package, her whole life, he's not going to find her intimidating. He's going to find her a joy. He's going to want to celebrate her. He, you know, he's probably got a pretty super cool life going on as well that other people might say is intimidating, but together they're the match.
That's exactly it. The right guy is not going to be intimidated by her. He's
No.
going to appreciate her for all that she is. But you're right, some women do become intimidating on purpose. And it is a defense mechanism. It's being a bit too confident, outgoing, showing off to some degree, and not allowing someone else to take charge of what she wants to do. It's often, I'm not going to use the phrase control freak, but some very powerful women are used to taking control. But what they really want is a guy just to say, let's go to that restaurant, let's go and do this, and to take charge. But they find it hard to sit back. So it's being dominant. Just relax into it and enjoy it. It's funny, people sometimes think that I'm going to be intimidating and they expect me to be intimidating before they speak to me. Obviously, I'm not. I'm lovely. I'm friendly, hopefully.
Yes.
But people are expecting me, because of what I do, to be intimidating, because I'm just confident and nice. So expectations. Don't expect someone to find you intimidating or not find you intimidating. Go with them. Give them a fresh chance. And every person will react to you in a different way. Now, we are coming towards the end of this already, which is super quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
So any other tips or secrets you can give somebody when it comes to finding their perfect soulmate?
You know what, to continue what you were just saying, I think and this is part of the preparation work to calling him in, it's really understanding the dynamic of masculine, feminine energy, not just within yourself. So I believe every human, whether you identify as male, female, however you identify, within you have masculine, feminine energy dynamics. So it's actually coming to understand that and working with that and playing with that and bringing that into a dance and a balance within yourself. And then understanding, if you are a woman calling in a guy, understanding the role of the masculine and the role of the feminine. She's to receive, she's to be open, surrendered, to allow him to do his thing, to serve her, to protect her. Because that sounds very like 1950s, doesn't it? But actually, it's how we're wired. It's how we're physically designed, to give and to receive. The masculine gives, the feminine receives. And a lot of us women, we're super independent. We don't need a man anymore. And yet, on a primal level, there's a craving and a desire for connection that is primitive. And energetically, we're being invited to relate to each other in that way. And we need to learn that. So for a lot of the women who, same as you, like they're super high functioning, intelligent, they've got it going on, they need to learn how to step into their feminine and to understand and feel the power in surrender, that it's not giving up and it's not letting someone manipulate or control them. It's actually really rather beautiful and very powerful. So that would be my final tip, that, got to learn to surrender into our feminine.
You do. It's not a sexist thing. It's not, because like you said, people are masculine and feminine. We've got a balance of both. And it's being in the perfect vibration, like you said, of both, and getting them aligned in the correct way. So when it comes to finding a relationship, then you can truly be matched with your perfect partner. Now, Katie, thank you so much for joining me. If somebody wanted to find out more about your School of Self-Love, how would they find you, and what exactly does it involve?
Well, they need to hop on over to the School of Self.Love. I love that I've got a .love. And there's all sorts of online classes and coaching programs available there at all sorts of different price points. I have a program called Daring and Mighty Love, which launches a couple times a year, which is a group coaching program for women. And that's all detailed under courses on the site.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. Ladies, do check out the School of Self-Love. I know you'll find it really, really useful, and you'll get some of the trainings that Katie provides. So, Katie, thank you so much for joining me today on this lovely, beautiful day in the UK.
Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting to you.
You too. It's been a real pleasure, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.